Thank you so much. Call this meeting Wednesday, December 7th, 2022. Call this meeting of the Town Council to order. Welcome, everybody. Molly, welcome. It's so wonderful to have you here.
Thanks.
I said all kinds of nice things about Neil. But it's great to have everybody. Just one housekeeping matter that will become a bit of a broken record, but you will not be recognized unless you approach the microphone to speak. We're not going to have the sort of shouting from the audience anymore. So we have two items on our agenda today. One is a summer wrap up, which if I'm not mistaken, I mean, I think has happened for years, but I think we actually put it in the charter the last time around, did we not? You know, a requirement that there be a summer wrap up. So thank you all for putting those together. And the second one is the first of what will be several discussions around priorities and goal setting and how do we get from point A to point B. But without further ado, who wants to start? Kristen, you want to start?
I certainly can.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Lily, do I do the visual? I did not prepare for a visual, but I can, might be able to.
Here, do you want this?
No, she's talking about on the screen.
No, I know, but-
You know, I'm going to just say no, unless it's necessary. So. Everybody has them. I'll go with that then. Thanks, Neil.
Yep. Look almost Molly.
Okay. And so for people that may be listening, it did make it to clerk base.
Yes.
Yes, so thank you. Yeah, so thank you for that. I was hoping for the big screen, but I'll live, Millie. I would have been happy to do it if I'd gotten any.
It's okay. Kristen, is your green light on there?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I'm Kristen Bauman. I'm speaking today as the director of the Island Free Library, and this is the summer wrap-up session. And you know, this is always a little bit of a trick for me at the library because we work year-round, as do all my colleagues and peers in the room, as do all of you at the table. You know, but so when we condense it to a summer, you know, we want to always be clear that we're here for the community all months of the year, right? So, you know, the work that we do in the summer, you know, we do other work all year long, but so most of this is about this summer. So I did a little slideshow presentation if you're following along at home. It starts in May when we sent 3 people to the Rhode Island Library Conference. That's been a goal for the library for a number of years to start sharing what we do on the island with others, because we do some outstanding work here. And so with these 3 people that went, one was Stella, and she was a high school senior last year, and she did her senior project with us. We also had a high school senior who interned with us, but Stella last year did her senior project with us. She presented with Bethany at the conference, and Morgan presented at the conference as well. I'm using first names. I think everybody knows who those women are. They did extremely well at the conference. It was well received. You know, there's always feedback sessions, and all their feedback was excellent. So that was exciting. My next slide is about, you know, summer, right? So during COVID, we created this outdoor library. We put tables outside. The state got a grant to increase the Wi-Fi projection that happens in the front yard there. So there's a So there's a state grant being employed here. We spent money on tables and chairs. We created this outdoor library. It's definitely a COVID silver lining because we used it this past summer. Lots and lots and lots of people come to the library and work outside all hours of the day and night. We've done many, many years of a chess program outside. This year was the biggest year yet. It was highly attended, lots of participation, lots of friendly competition. This is head up by a library ally who comes from the mainland. He teaches at Wheeler, maybe? Oh, I forget where he teaches, but he teaches on the mainland. And he every year calls us up, says, I'm spending my usual month. Shall I run the chess club? And we, of course, say, yes, come run the chess club. He's a great kid. The people look for him now. He has regulars that come. It's really a nice little scene out there. The next slide is something that we call Book It Forward. We give books away, not because we don't think they have value, but because we don't think their value is always about money. So it's this concept of, booking it forward. So the books in the hutch here, again, if you can see it on the slide, is about you take a book and you do an act of kindness. And so there's suggestions in there. It says clean up the beach. It says call your grandmother. It says cook your mom dinner. It says bring your neighbor some cookies. It says shovel your neighbor's yard. It's this idea of community, right? Building community. And we do that through giving away books. The state runs a large summer reading program. During COVID, it had to go online, which was fortunate in that it opened it up for not just kids. So adults, teens, and kids are now part of our summer reading program. We had people participate at all of those levels. This picture sort of starts to talk about the grants that we receive. One was for summer reading program. The summer reading program this year, the theme was read off the beaten path. So there were lots of ideas about tents and outdoor activities that was really easy for us to plug into. We have toddlers. We have staff who have toddlers that have tents that we borrowed. This tent in the main frame here was inside the library most days, came outside on sunny days. The whale in the back was outside every day. The summer reading program is always a big success. We had lots of adults read this year as well. Teens are always a little spotty. The teens come in at the end of summer when summer reading is over and get their reading done before the first day of school, AKA the night before school starts. But we know that. We've seen that. Molly's seen that. I've seen that. You've all seen that, so we have the books that they need. We hold them for them all summer long. They're still ready for them when they come that night. The next slide is about other grants that we received. So we work with the state offices. There's 2 state offices that the library works with. One is called OLIS, Office of Library and Information Services, and that's a state government office. And then we work with OLS, only missing the I from the acronym in the first one. Very confusing. I repeat this often for my staff, so ask me to repeat it as many times as you want. Is Ocean State Libraries. That's the Public Library Consortium. So they both have been receiving federal money that they've been distributing to the libraries. So we received a summer reading program grant, a technology grant, and another something else. But these are summer reading and technology. So for technology, we bought solar charging stations for outside the library. We are, this picture, I think, really illustrates, this, like, who Block Island is, right? Part of who we are, right? We like this idea of solar. We like the idea of wind, right? And so the next one that we got a grant, so that was a technology grant, and we got the solar charging stations. I should also mention that, we chose that because so many people do use the library lawn, and it has a mental health component. Right? I don't know if anybody's ever seen anyone who's out of a charge. We see it a lot, and there's a panic there. That's a panic for people. legitimate panic, right? Like that can be something very important that they need to be charged up for, a contact they need to make, a meeting they need to go to, someone they need to call. So, so part of that grant was about a mental health component, not only illustrating, solar and this healthy place that Block Island is, but also a mentally healthy place that we want it to be. So that's what we wrote for the tech grant for the solar charging stations. The big planter in the middle was a summer reading grant, and we put a pollinator garden in there, and then we put pollinator books on display in the library, and that really grew right from that grant. We did all kinds. We invited Tracy Finn, who has a what do they call that? What kind of hive is that? When she can show you the bees, right? She shows up with this beehive that what's that called? Anybody?
It's like a plexiglass thing.
Yeah, well, it's got a name, that
So
hive.
yeah.
Yeah, it's got a name, that hive. Anyway, she brings that hive in, so we grew activities out of this. We made up these kits with beeswax, and people could take home kits where they made their own beeswax candles. The yellow signs that you see there are pages of a book talking about why bees are important, why pollination is important, where you get your food from, really kind of building on this idea that just came from a couple $100 grant where we planted this garden. And then again, the summer reading program tent is in there. That was fun. I should say something about the garden there too. We worked with the Block Island gardeners and the URI master gardeners. On Block Island, they're some of the same people by default, right? That's who we live with, is Block Island gardeners, and some of them are also URI master gardeners. It's fun to work with them. Again, you can see these grants in action here. People are reading the signs, going to the pollinator garden. This is a picture from a Dodge Street night market. We're doing family events. We have families coming. We participate with our neighbors in Dodge Street. We are always giving away books. It's a fun picture. I was going to say something like bubbles and more, but I didn't want to be discrediting to Miss Morgan, the youth services librarian, and the work she does. But it's a pretty cool picture that I caught with the bubble right there in the middle. And then where I'm standing taking this picture, behind me is the South County Prevention Coalition. They tabled at the library every week for Dodge Street Night Market. They came for other events as well. They're really hands-on as an ally for everyone on the island, right? They talk about substance prevention. They talk about, alcohol and substance prevention. They talk about building communities. They have mental health resources. They have a load of contacts that we have built a great relationship with them. You've seen them also work with the police. They came and did the Naxalon, Narcon. It's called all kinds of things these days. I shouldn't be so aloof about that. One of the most important things that South County Prevention taught me was that everyone should be carrying Narcan. So I will repeat that for them. They believe very strongly that everyone should have Narcan in their pocket. That's where we're at. So we work with them. The next page is fun. We ran this. One of the Dodge Street markets was a kids craft show, an art show. The kids made these great little crafts. You can see some of their artwork and what they were selling there. We work with the Contemporary Theater Company, another group we've really built a strong relationship with. They come often. They did a teen improv. They did a summer reading event. They did Shakespeare on the Lawn. They did a fall production a few weeks ago. They did this great one-woman show. She was fabulous. And they will be back. We now have a relationship with them. We're bringing art and culture to the island. All those events are free to the public. Then we started feeding people. There is a need for this on Block Island. I include this slide because some of you know this, some of you volunteer your time, effort, money, energy, talent to feeding people through the food bank. We also feed people on the island. This concept here for us really falls in line with what we do. We share books, we share food, right? We share, right? This is what we do on Block Island. For us at the library, this was a concept about there's more than enough for everyone. So here's what we do.
Can I
We
ask a
share it.
Quick question, Chris, and
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but how's the community refrigerator working out?
This is part of that,
That's
and
part of it?
it's great. We just got the community refrigerator, people eat out of it every day.
Uh-huh.
We find that many people need it and use it. They have found it, they use it. We take people down there, we show them it. There's no it's really self-serve in there.
Yeah.
We're now asking people to make things that I won't put a microwave in that room. That is the staff kitchen, and we've always had a microwave in there, and many times we've set the fire alarm off. It's just a weird setup with that, and I won't do that anymore because it's something we try to avoid at the town level, the false calls, the don't roll the trucks call that I have to make, the teens who are freaking out because all they wanted was popcorn. I'm screaming and yelling, everybody's evacuating. So there's no microwave in there, but I am comfortable with a crock pot in there. We've asked people to bring crock pot food, and we're doing a lot of to go, hot meals to go.
Thank you.
This is what part of this is about. And people contribute to that. I didn't grow that food. People brought in extra food from their gardens on the concept that we have enough for everyone. So in September, we host the opening event and a story time event for Queer Block Island for Pride Weekend. I wanted to include these pictures because because not everybody comes, and I wanted people to see who does come and what it's like, that there's families and they're happy to be there and they're smiling and they're having a good time. And so, if you don't come, you don't know that. And so I wanted to share that and show that. And, I got a note from the town manager that there was some pushback lurking about this. And I replied to that. And so, now is an opportunity for me to reply publicly that the Pride events are paid through the librarian checking account, which is not part of the town's operating budget. Most, not all, the town budget, the town operating budget has a very small dollar line. Amy was in the room, she could tell you what it is, but it's a very small dollar line for programs. And that's a new program line because we never had a program line in there. That was always paid for by the Friends or the librarian's checking account. So we start to say we're doing all these programs, and the town should know that. And so one way for you to know that is to put a line in the budget. So we put a line in the budget. It's small. I still pay for many, 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 many of the programs that happen at the library through the librarian's checking account. The librarian's checking account is fed by book sale money, by candy bar sales, by donations. That's how it's fed. And so through that, I pay for programming. One of the programs I paid for were for some gay pride events, to be clear. Not a town operating dollar was spent on that.
Good for you.
I felt confident about it because it's part of our purview, as well as the town council having a resolution in support of Pride Weekend. So, I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on that, but I'm happy to answer questions on that. But I did want to include it because I think the pictures are great, and we are proud of that work.
So inclusiveness has always been part of your mantra.
Yeah.
And whether it's for food or for people feeling less comfortable, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Are there other events or other communities that events could support? And I'm thinking whether it's Hispanic or different communities on the island in the same kind of inclusive way, or have you evaluated them, you sort of tapped out, or they're being told?
We're never tapped
Yeah.
out. I mean, we're tapped out, but we're ready to do more. We do work with other pieces of our community. There have been very successful events with the Spanish community, Spanish speaking community. Very successful events with that. There's some under the scenes things that we do there. The ESL program was very strong this year. So that is another program, you know, that's consistent as opposed to just a one-off event. It happens every week. It's on a little hiatus now. The woman who was running it was away. We're trying to figure that out, you know, as far as the staff right now, because we don't think when someone goes away, the program should stop. But that's a little bit where we're at right now. You know, and at this time of year, we have less volunteer, right? We don't have that summer population that would volunteer with us and would mentor and be a part of ESL. We work with the seniors, right? I have a teen in the library right now volunteering. So, you know, there are other pieces of Block Island that we, you know, that we try to reach out to. Yeah. It's a trick for sure. You know, some of them, some people don't want to be reached. It's a funny, you know, it's a fine line. So again, I already spoke about the South County Regional Coalition. They're great. These women are really super, super great, willing to do anything, always on board. You'll see them in the newspaper very soon. They're going to start to run ads for the National Suicide Hotline. They just got a grant to do that. She called me up and she said, how do I do that? I said, you run an ad, run an ad, run an ad, and let's get you on the bulletin. So, you know, you'll start to see them a little more publicly. And then in, I think it was September, I don't remember when, we were nominated for the National Medal for Museum and Library Service by Senator Whitehouse. It's a humongous honor. It was a very large project that we put together. We wrote, our part of it was an application that was pretty extensive, but it was a great team effort at the library. It was a great opportunity for us to work as a team. And we had community support. We asked people to write letters that they were positive. Everybody said yes. That packet is now at the National Medal for Museum and Library Service office. You know, we have to sit. Now we have to sit and wait. That's a sit and wait game now. That's a short list that comes out in May, I think, and then 3 libraries and 3 museums from across the country win the award in June. That was great. That was really, you know, that was a big day when we got that. You know, a letter from the senator's office is always a big day, but that was a really big day.
So both senators wrote, right?
So Senator Whitehouse nominated us.
Yeah,
Senator
Reed
Reed wrote for us. Congressman Langevin wrote. You can get 3 public letters, but as many from congressional as you wanted. So Langevin wrote for us, and then when we asked Cicilline, he said we weren't in his district, but he'd be happy to sign Langevin's letter. So that was them, and we got that done. That was fun. But again, a really great team effort. Everybody worked in a Google document where we did these bullet points. And then I, myself and another staff person wrote, my staff person edited, and then we handed it to the other staff who'd never seen it, and they really edited, right? They caught all that stuff that we had read over 10,000 times. And then the last staff person and I stayed late one night and really polished it. So just an example of what an opportunity to work as a team. You know, if for nothing else, we have this awesome document that is a team effort, if nothing else happens.
That's terrific stuff. Thank you, Krista.
Yeah.
Any questions?
I'm going to just go through these numbers real quick. So we
Oh,
had
yes.
61,402 people visit the library. Jess likes numbers. Let's go through them for her. We had 10,412 books circulate. Sven likes the next number. Over 2,300 ebooks checked out, and over 2,300 audio ebooks checked out. So that's almost half, or more than, it's about half exactly, right? Of print copy that went out.
Which is similar to what it was last year. if I
It's
remember.
very similar. We're still at half. We haven't gone beyond that, but that's half. I like to share the ILL number. That's interlibrary loan. We sent out 5,400. We requested, our patron base requested 2,800. to understand that number, it speaks to our collection work.
Yeah.
That means that we have excellent books in that
Right.
library, that we have gotten rid of crud, brought in really good new stuff that people want, that get checked out. So that's what that speaks to. 372 programs is more than one a day by a long shot because we're closed for 2 days. 3,000 people attended the programs, 26,000 people connected to the Wi-Fi. That's a little bit staggering. And over 32, almost 33,000 people came to the website. I want to say one sentence about that. I had no clue about that. I really didn't. I get this little free Google Analytic thing, and I had been reporting that number at 5,000, 6,000 from this Google Analytic, the free version that I get. And when I asked our website developer to look at that, he gave me the real number, and I was really floored. That's a lot of people looking at our website, and it's really good news for us because we actually do programs on our website. So you can go to our website in April, and every day there's a new poem up there. You can go to our website in February, and there's a highlight of someone, a Black American for Black History Month. So when we use our website like that, and we do program on our website, and we know that 33,000 people are looking at that, it's really very exciting for us. Yes.
Fiscal year 22, so these last summers or summer before?
Yes. So as I said, yes. So those numbers are get reported to an annual report that the state asks for, and they're for the fiscal year. So they're only till July 1st of this year. They're June 1st to July 1st to this July 1st. Yeah. So it isn't quite what you're looking for tonight, but I don't have a way to break them out any other
No,
way.
that's fine. I just wanted clarification.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as far as what you said in the very beginning, about the summer wrap up, we always call this a summer wrap
Yeah.
up, but
You really
we're
just want to know
always
what we're doing,
looking
right?
for
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a lot of outside the building. This is some inside the building. I wanted to give you one other number that we just crunched today. A lot of people on Block Island need space to work. They need private workspace. They need phone call space. They need Zoom space. They need to meet with people. And we had, so this is I think we looked at from April till today. So we didn't look at January, February, March, because we used a different system then before it got super busy. And I couldn't put my finger on that system today, but the reservation book for meeting room space, which can be a closet when it's very busy at the library. We have put people in closets, was 477.
Wow.
Yeah, 477 people reserved a space at the library to work in from April till today.
Wow.
So
I think everybody's been part of those to some degree, whether it's, meeting the senators or meeting.
yeah, people need space.
Work.
They
yeah.
need space to work. We conferred with the trustees. They gave up their office for space. We use that little side entrance, that foyer for space. When I say a closet, we use the archive room upstairs. We put a desk in there and a chair in there. And then we have one real meeting room C downstairs. I don't suspect that will change too much with internet across the island. I think there'll be some change, but I think people will still need privacy, quiet. Libraries will be a traditional place where you go to work, as they've always been, because in your house where there's now Wi-Fi, kids and company are going to be watching movies and playing music and playing Xbox and whatever else is going on. So that bandwidth will, I think people will still be coming to the library.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
I had one
Kristen.
other question.
Yes.
Do you want to give us an update on the building? Is that under your purview or? You can just do in one sentence, Kristen. How you do, how is it?
There has been more movement at the library this past 2 weeks than there has been all fall, and we're so pleased about it. And there are windows going in and work is getting done.
Great, thank you.
Since the election, by the way.
I had to battle that one. I definitely had to battle that. And we have a new toilet, which is great. The staff,
That's important.
it is. The staff was like, fixing the toilet a couple times a day. But it's been replaced.
Terrific.
Well, Kristen, thank you for all you do for it. I send lots of guests down there who are staying and they absolutely love it. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we try.
hey,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You're feeding people too.
Slideshow presentation.
okay.
But my report, I think,
Good
speaks for itself. If you guys see anything outstanding that you'd like to talk about, I'm more than willing to. We had a great summer. I've had more incidents this fall than I did all summer. Probably the biggest update would be that I am still working with the salvage company and the insurance company to get that sailboat off the beach at Dory's Cove.
I was
They're also
go-
gonna
gonna
work
ask
falling
that.
on you now totally?
No, they're working with it's the insurance company that's holding it up.
Yeah, since
Um,
you've got the public microphone, that's a good opportunity to. Do you have any kind of estimate on what's going on? Because I don't know if you're, how much, you probably don't spend the time on social media that I do, but it seems like every 4 or 5 days, somebody puts up a new picture. Oh, the boat just came ashore.
Yeah.
And somebody else comes on and says, look at the harbor master's report.
I had the salvage company out today to take more photos. They're really waiting for the deposit from the insurance company, which is a German company. So there's a language barrier, there is a time difference. And
Interesting.
again, it's red tape that we're dealing with. I would think hopefully the end of next week.
It is actively being pursued. That's the
Absolutely.
important part. Thank you.
I'm hoping that they can also take the other sailboat that's about 100 yards north
Mm.
at the same time. So we'll see.
Thank you very much. Dave.
Finances, the only things that I didn't add in is we gave our customers the credit card fees this year
Oh,
and did not have pushback at all. And we made close to $8,000 on that. Amy can give us the final money on that. That's something that the town has always encouraged. And second year for the wait list, people pay online, we're almost at $8,000 again.
great.
So
What did you see in terms of, just sort of your sense? It's not data, but in terms of, you can keep track of the moorings, but like anchoring, that kind of thing, would you say more crowded, less
no,
crowded?
I'd say it was quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Moorings are always going to be full.
Yeah, exactly.
Private moorings are always going to be full, but I feel like the anchorage was quiet.
You think that, what do you think that is, gas price?
Yes.
And what, did mooring prices go up from 21 to 22?
No,
So I'm just curious so revenue was down, not by much, but then.
not by much. And
but
I'm not
pump
quite,
out was up.
I'm not
Okay.
quite sure if all of the deposits were in that final 2022 number.
Okay.
So that could also increase.
Oh, right.
Okay.
So we're probably breaking even right there. It's probably consistent.
But Neil, I think we did have an increase in
2020.
in mooring fees in 2020. So
Okay.
that's why you would see that acceleration.
Well, I was just looking at, so
Between
in
2020 and
2022
Right.
went down, and then yet pump out was up, which would mean more boats.
Right.
And making, so how.
I think that's also a little more consistency with my staff
Okay,
and our paperwork
okay.
and keeping track of that with Dylan from the sewage treatment plant.
Right.
Right.
What about the increase in Old Harbor? Was that the increase in water tree or just sort of?
It's pretty amazing because Josh thought that he was going to be down.
Yeah.
People stayed longer
Mm.
and we had less day trippers. So people when people came, they were here for, say, 3 or 4 days instead of 1 day trip over.
Right, right. Interesting.
The pump out numbers, did they change when the marinas started using the pump out services more, or is it fairly negligible?
They've always, since 2018, they have not had working
Pumps.
pump out
right.
service. So
But I remember last year and last 2 years, there's sort of been a push to make sure they're actually using the service or having the service, or is that really consistent?
no, I think it's very consistent.
Okay. Okay. That last,
They have been charged
yeah,
$5 a pump out, and they do not have any issue with paying that at all. Because they appreciate the service.
help me with your thoughts on noise, especially in Old Harbor. I guess both, in Old Harbor and New Harbor, but I want to sort of separate the two. It appears to me, from my experience on New Harbor, that Champlin's was a lot quieter than it has been in years past. And yet, still there are times when there's a lot of noise, but Old Harbor seems to have gotten louder. Is that just my perception, or is that?
I don't want to be quoted.
Oh.
Just turn your microphone off.
No, it's off the record.
Yeah.
I believe that Ballards also has a speaker
Yeah.
that is going out to the public area, getting people to go into their,
Going
Establishment?
towards the.
towards Old Harbor.
Towards the
Yes.
dock.
Yes, so then you have the people on the boats that are turning their music up. Josh and my crew are always down there. If anyone has a noise complaint, call the police department. They
Yeah.
come down with the
Yeah.
noisometer, whatever the hell it's called.
Okay, thank you.
The only.
New Harbor,
Take us on the,
yes,
I already got lost on the Old Harbor. Go ahead on the New Harbor.
and it's also wind direction. I know
Yeah.
people.
That's what
can
I was
hear
gonna
it
say,
from
thank
the-
you.
You know, I can hear the spring house from my apartment. You know.
Yeah, that I was going to, there are days, only a few days in the summer, I can hear ballads.
Right.
Other days, it is crazy loud down there. I don't hear a single thing up on the corner.
I think New Harbor, Champlin's, the new management
Mm,
took care of the noise problems.
Pretty clearly.
Yeah.
I hear that at my house.
Again, it's also wind direction. Had minimal calls at night about. I think the biggest complaint I get is people running their generators past 10 o'clock.
mhm.
And then they don't want to bother me, so then they don't call, but then they complain in the morning.
Yes.
Nothing I can do at that
I think
point.
I've experienced that. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're
Kate.
welcome.
Awesome. Congratulations on an incredible summer.
Why don't we do Jess as kind of the wrap up versus, Mike, do you want to say anything about highways?
Mike Shea, Highway Superintendent for the town.
Thanks.
For the most part, it was summer as usual. Our mornings are extremely busy. That's our time to get everything done before everything goes crazy on the roads. Our cleaning, the town properties, any disasters that happen over the night that need to be attended to, that's our time to get it taken care of. One of the big things that was different this year, the first time summer, the Tourism Council approached us prior to the summer for us to help out with trash and how to keep the island cleaner and all that. And the thing that I came up with was an extra person in the early mornings. Because what I'd done in the past is would be myself going out, and I was finding we didn't have enough time to get everything done before the onslaught,
Mhm.
roughly 10 a.m. So we had that extra person. That person started at 5:30 in the morning. Along with me, I would normally go off in the sweeper 3 days a week, and that person would be able to start the cleanup of the beaches, the bluff, downtown, Mansion, Scotch Beach, Settlers Rock, Dory's, Gracie's, they do all the running
Mhm.
around and, check all those places out. which freed me up to do my things too. So by the time the other guys come in at 7:30, 8 o'clock, we've got the brunt of it taken care of. It was a huge help. I see going forward doing the same thing, having that person come in early morning. Like I said, the Tourism Council financed it this year. I don't know if that's going to happen in the future, but if not, I think it's something that's going to have to be budgeted for. Because there's definitely a need for it. And it helped. I think it helped tremendously. How I did it was, we first considered hiring a seasonal person. And we know that's a battle, getting the right person that wants to get up at 5 a.m. There's not many of them. So what I did is we use the guys in the department, and we would just do it on a rotating basis. One guy would come in for 7 straight days, early morning, and then the next guy would. So everyone got a fair turnaround with it, and they were paid a time and a half because they had to get up at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And so it worked well. So that's something that I think we want to continue on. This summer, because of the drought, lack of rain, was actually a great summer for us. I love droughts. It's the best thing that could happen as far as
Yeah, right.
our mowing. We had everything pretty much wrapped up,
Yeah.
early, and it stopped growing. Because of that, we were able to get out and do a lot of trimming that we normally can't do during the summer because we're too busy mowing. We just can't get to it. So we were way ahead by the end of the summer in keeping things mowed and trimmed. In the month of June, that's when the town dirt roads are mowed. Once we get after June, it's just too busy on the roads. We can't do it. And those roads are done with the flail mower. So, and it takes a good month to get all of them done. So by July, it's always the goal by July 1st, get off those roads, have them completed. Because of the lack of rain, the town dirt roads, they stayed in great shape. We just had very little maintenance on them this summer, which goes back to, I love droughts. Bring them on. Also, this year, this was the second year that we worked with the wastewater department in the maintenance of the porta johns. And it works very smoothly. They come and do the pumping, we do the cleaning, setting up, and we do that Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's worked out very smoothly. Those guys were great. And it's a big savings for the town. Sure. So for the most part, that's pretty much it. People will probably be surprised that to hear that the summer is actually sort of a slow time for us.
Yeah.
We get to a point where it's just so busy out there. We can't move any of the trucks. We can't, there's times where I got to bring the guys in from mowing, especially on Corn Neck Road, because it's just too dangerous for them. It's too dangerous for everyone else. So there is that time in August where we're reactive. We get, for whatever disasters happening at that time, we just, we go and take care of that. And then things kick in. Now we're in the mad rush to get everything done before the bad weather comes in. So
Hey, Mike, would you tell, for everybody's benefit, the story about the truck that the town had on order?
yes. 13 months ago, we placed an order for one of the mid-sized dump trucks that has lived its life. And it's one of the plow trucks also. 13 months ago, we ordered it. We got word yesterday that the order has been canceled by Ford. So we are short a truck there. Our small truck that we do the beaches with and do the running around and all that, the little Ford Ranger. That one is on Chapel Street being repaired right now because that engine is pretty much kaput. And we cannot order another. Ford is not taking any orders at this time. So the guys are using their own vehicles for the most part. One good thing is we may have tracked down a truck today.
Oh, great.
Yes, this is news
Yeah.
since yesterday.
Yeah.
So we're going to grab it.
Yeah.
As soon as we can, I'm going to talk to Shirlene as soon as I leave here to see if it's all coming together. So that's a good thing. And I think that's about it. Any questions? Love to hear.
Yeah, there's been, like, maybe asking a total question. Are there areas that, especially down in the commercial area, both New Harbor and Old Harbor, where businesses, people in the community can help maintain or clean better? And I'm thinking that, a number of the businesses will get out and they'll be sweeping their sidewalk in front of their business, but they don't necessarily always clean across the street. And I have personally witnessed a number of times where folks walk across the street, have a cigarette, throw the cigarette on the ground, step on it, and then go back into that business. And I've seen that a number of times in a number of businesses, so I'm not picking on anything. If one were to meet with those businesses and talk about not just cleaning their side of the street, but also the other side, and taking a little bit of ownership to making both New Harbor and Old Harbor a little bit more presentable as far as sort of that little trash stuff, would that help you? Or do you see that only as like, oh, we got it under control?
No, absolutely. Everything would help.
And do you think that I'm right or you don't agree?
Yes and no.
Got it. I'm right and you do agree.
There are,
I'm just-
there are some businesses that are excellent
Yeah.
about cleaning up their property, doing the sidewalks, going the extra bit, like you say, going across the street and doing, some cleanup. There's other businesses that have never touched a thing.
Yeah.
And I've tested them. I've purposely left a bottle on their property, and it will sit there for weeks and weeks and weeks until I pick it up. And there's quite a few. So yes, the businesses could definitely step up in the cleanup.
And in those scenarios, does the owner get spoken to? Because sometimes it's not the owner in the business, right?
Exactly.
And it's someone working for them who doesn't even think I should have
Yep.
to do that. So
And-
if the owner doesn't know, and I'm not saying in all cases, but
Right.
it may prompt them to tell their staff, going forward, you open the morning, you're looking across the street.
Yep, they should certainly be made aware. Some of them, one comes to mind, but I don't care to mention, but the owner is off island and the property is a mess. And I hear often, the town's got to clean this up. The town's not doing their job. The town is, has to clean these things up. And the town properties are cleaned every single day. It's the private properties. I'm not going to go on a private property and clean someone else's property or a business's property.
Right.
It's their responsibility. Everywhere else in the world, it's done.
I'm
So
really,
and again, there are some businesses that are excellent. I think we all know who they are.
yes.
And there's others that need to step up.
I'm glad Sven raised this. I was actually, C and I actually talked about this and I was gonna raise it when Jess does her thing, but I think there would be value. Sven and I have talked about including the chamber, but having a working group on kind of the cleanliness downtown, which I hope you would participate in. I talked to Jess about, Martha's there literally every day all summer. There are a number of people and, it may be that if we have hotspots that there are certain people we need to talk to, but I think sort of raising the level of awareness and sort of accountability on it would seem to make some sense.
And the town, other than your efforts, the town, as far as I know, really hasn't done a great job of communicating with all business equally and saying, hey, these are sort of the expectations. Some have done it because they do it. Some haven't done it because they don't do it. But I do think there's an opportunity for us as the council to sort of set some expectations, set the bar and do it as a team. And I know Jess's group is working hard. Mike's been incredibly hard. So there have been pieces, but I'm not sure that all businesses have been.
Yeah.
So-
One thing I'd add to that is also off-season. We live here, it'd be nice that they just don't worry about the properties during the summer.
I'm talking year round.
That's a
Yeah.
really good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
I have a question about the street sweeper. You got really early in the morning for that, but would there be a way to let people know tomorrow morning or Wednesday mornings I'm gonna be running that. Cause I find like when I sweep the sidewalk in front of my friend's shop, I don't know when you're coming by with that, like,
Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
okay. So, but maybe it would be helpful if there was a way to communicate that, to say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he's gonna come through. So,
Let's do it in that
Sunday
meeting.
night, Tuesday night, Thursday night, sweep your sidewalk.
Another thing, a few years ago, I requested that we put up no parking signs downtown, Monday, Wednesday, Friday,
So
for
you
1
can
hour.
sweep.
No parking so I can sweep. And you would have thought, I was putting up an incinerator at Mary D. Park. So there are areas that I can't even get to all summer long. And the more cars there are, the more, spots I can't get to.
I don't remember that, Mike.
Mhm.
I don't remember it.
So are they
you
marked no
talking-
parking or they're not?
I'm sorry,
They're not
There
marked
are
no
not.
parking for that
but if we could have it from
time
6
frame.
to
Okay,
7,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
something like that.
Well, they've got the temporary no parking stickers. They've got them. They use them on the 4th of July, put them out that's
So
it.
this would
that-
be all summer long.
Doesn't seem that hard. I mean, they're just things that get stuck
Maybe
up.
okay, I'll order them tomorrow.
As far as I'm concerned, that's fine. But I wanted to just track back to the various places, and there's some I know there are some that are real problems. But and I've said this before about a number of places downtown. I really think it's so important to highlight the ones that have really done a great job. And
Yeah.
this is where we should be. Instead of saying you have to clean up, say, these are the places that are doing really well. And I say the same thing about historic district, the place that was Star Department Store. I talked to people all summer. Did you notice anything is different? And nobody knew they'd rebuilt the place because they did such an extraordinary job. And I said before, I'll say that every chance I get for a couple of years because they really, things like that should be lauded. But yeah, I know there were a couple of really bad sore spots down there, and I had some conversations with some people, and they just don't seem to see it.
And-
Yeah, so
well-
sometimes public shaming. is
Yeah.
such a bad thing.
I mean, honestly,
Let's talk
about
it, lifting the water, it's not
shaming.
I
Well-
mean, you always want to go on approach first, but because I've heard this, I don't know who it is, but I've heard over and over. Everyone knows who the people are doing it. So at some point, after many conversations, it's time to, do what you need to get a change in behavior.
Right. And I hate to pick on someone, but the sort of the gateway, the ferry parking lot is dirty. It's consistently
Yes.
consistently dirty.
Yes,
And,
but this,
and that's our gateway. So it's like
it just amazes me
sends a
that
message.
it's not seen.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing you've got to tell someone they should be cleaning up.
Well, it's clear we do.
But I know
and-
you have to.
But I will say thank you for what you and your team do because it's amazing the street sweeper, how nice it is after. And it's amazing when I see you walking through town, picking up with your grabber. So thank you.
I'd also like to compliment a lot of the residents and tourists. There's some people that are outstanding. I see them, the dog walkers, and they have a bag and they're clean up. There's one woman, she comes out every summer. I think she's somewhere down in New Harbor, and that is her walk. She does the whole loop, and she's constantly picking up trash. I thank her every year.
Can I,
So one little tidbit about trash too, which I've noticed the past couple of years, one of the most abundant pieces of trash that we pick up is Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah,
They get it on the mainland, take it off the boat, drop it.
yes.
could I ask really quickly? So later on, we're talking about like things that the town could do. So would you say then that one thing we could do that would be helpful to you would be to alter the parking signs downtown in the summer?
Yep.
To indicate, like, just like you in New York City, right? Where they very
Exactly.
specific about where you
In
can
many
park and
cities.
when, right?
Yeah.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you cannot be parked there for these
Mhm.
hours. Also in the city, the police car follows or goes ahead of the street sweeper and issues the tickets.
Mhm.
So would that be something
Yeah.
that you think would be helpful?
And
And then the other thing I wanted to ask you is we talked about some of these items at a meeting maybe like 3 months ago. And I remember Kristen brought up the idea of the town having a sidewalk cleaner.
Mhm.
So there's a big stretch of sidewalk that's kind of oogy from gum and ice cream drippings and lemonade spillage that then gets dirt kind of
Mhm.
congealed into it. And it's kind of gross looking along that whole stretch of sidewalk on the business side of Water Street. Would that be something you guys could use? Would that be like a pain in the neck
I
or?
believe it's the town's responsibility. Everywhere else in the world, businesses clean up in front of their business. I
Okay,
mean,
We may have an ordinance.
Yeah.
I know we have one for shoveling snow.
shoveling snow, and the town does that too.
Yeah.
Because they don't.
so would this be enforce the ordinance?
Yes.
Okay,
This will be the work of the
business
Uji
owners
working
should be doing it themselves. If it became our responsibility, you'd have to add another person.
Right.
I don't think it's I don't believe it's our responsibility. That's my.
mhm.
Well, Keith's wife's looking for something to do.
Yeah.
Kristen,
Yes, Kristen. Yes, please.
Mike, I was wondering, where the town porta potties are,
Mhm,
and I'm of the great fortune that I've never had to use one.
mhm. Lucky
And
you.
places where others could fit and would be necessary. Like, is that a solution that's out there? I didn't know the town had porta. Thank you.
We have 2 at Mansion Beach, 4 at the Southeast Lighthouse, Heinz Field. And that's it. And the one at Mansion should be phased out. With their children.
Right.
With the bathrooms. And as far as adding more, people don't like using them. That's why you never used one of them before. There's a definite need for bathrooms. But I don't think that's the way to go.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, thank you.
All right, Dave, pickleball sniffing.
Thank you. Sorry, I was late.
Oh, was Sven late? Were you?
No,
late?
no, I wasn't late. Actually, I was 3 hours or 2 hours. 45 minutes late. 7 o'clock. I'm Dave Sniffen, Recreation Director. Talk about the summer. It was busy. Town Beach, we can talk about the Town Beach first. We had 7 full-time lifeguards hired. We had 2 managers, 6 rental personnel. Income from rentals pre-COVID from like 2018 was $105,000, $139. 2019, it was $105,473. This past summer was the busiest we've ever had at $117,467. That's up from last year during COVID, where it was $84,342. So we had the busiest summer we've ever had. That's just that's just the rentals, chairs and umbrella rentals income. We have an ATM that actually brought in another $5,414. That's up from $3,970 from last year. So Town Beach was crazy busy.
Dave, did you charge the same amount for stuff?
Same
No,
amount.
Same amount.
Yeah.
So,
Since I started.
yeah.
It was the busiest I've ever experienced there. The first 2 years that we went over $100,000 was we put an ATM machine there because it's a cash.
Sure.
But then when COVID hit, there were a lot of restrictions on rentals and things of
Right,
that nature.
right.
So numbers obviously went down, but this year everything came back. A lot of that's attributed to the weather. If we didn't have really a bad rainy day or very many.
And not bad forecast.
Yeah. And, at the beach, if we have a rainy weekend, that can skew the numbers, $3,000 or $4,000, $5,000 for
right.
a weekend. So we were fortunate again.
I like droughts as well. If they're,
For different reasons. Yeah.
So, yeah, it was good. The issues that I'm having at Town Beach are what they're having all over everywhere is hiring lifeguards and keeping lifeguards. A lot of lifeguards go back to school, middle of August now. So it's very difficult first to hire lifeguards and more or less keep them through the season. I was fortunate I had 2 lifeguards through the end of the season, so I was able to have lifeguards on premises, if not in the chairs at all times. But that's the hardest thing. It's a nationwide shortage of lifeguards. A lot of places are they're doing without them or doing what they can.
Right.
But overall, Fred Benson, the building held up pretty well. Everything the showers ran well. We did find at the beginning of the season that the handicap ramp was in the front, had been buried in sand, found some rot. And so Bob Gallant spent several weeks rebuilding that. And so that's up back. A new ramp was put in, it's up and running. It was up and running by July 1.
How's the housing work out there?
Housing is great. It's a great
Yeah.
place to live. Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes the right person, but we're getting, I like to have 18, 19, 20-year-old lifeguards. More responsibility. I like to put the more responsible, I term them head lifeguard. I put one of them in the single down there. They're kind of in charge of
Right.
monitoring the building and
Yeah.
if I'm not there. We haven't really had any housing issues since we put those in.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a great place. The only, there's a trade-off of living at the Coast Guard station where there's a kitchen as opposed to at the Town Beach where there is no
Right.
cooking facilities.
Right.
So it's a trade-off, but who wouldn't want to live on the beach there? It's a gorgeous location and, we're just trying to get housing where we can get it. That's the hardest thing right now.
Sure.
So,
Well, just anecdotally, I had a lot of first-time Block Islanders this year. And obviously I send them to the beach because they don't have beach chairs and all of that. And they raved about the experience. So between the beach and this feeling like they had a nice, using the bathrooms and the food. And so.
that's good news, right?
all good.
We were busy this summer with a lot of things. Our Camp Mohegan had 179 children enrolled in a 9-week program. It's not the same 179, but 179 children over 9 sessions. That's up from 130 from last summer. And I think that has a lot to do with the COVID restrictions we had. We were limited by the amount of kids we could actually have. And, we'd have to separate them into certain groups and things like that. So we were also only running with 3 counselors this year and our director, Kim Cantone. She did a fantastic job. I'm sorry that she ended up taking another job, but she did a fantastic job. But again, that's a big jump from 130 to 179. That's good. And I've been hearing, all I hear is good things about, the camp. So the camp runs very well. We had 2 soccer camps for the kids, Norman Riker.
Camp Mohegan, is it a week long or is it?
It's Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 12:30.
How much is it?
I believe it's $160. It's definitely a bargain for people.
Real bargain. It's great.
But yeah, it's a decent. It brought in this year $17,263. It's up from 16,000, so it went up a little bit. We had some sports camps this year. Norman Riker came out and did 2 soccer camps. 25 children in the first camp, 23 in the second. Unfortunately, John Tarbucks had been doing a baseball camp, but he is retiring, so he didn't do a camp this year. So that we'll miss that. But I'm working on getting another baseball camp for the summer. But we did have 2 basketball camps run by the head coach of Providence County Day, this guy Tom Sinkowitz, who actually played professional basketball. So he comes out on vacations, and during his vacation, he does a basketball camp for us. So that's good. We had 2 of those.
How does that work, Dave? Did you compensate them directly? Did they get a percent?
Exactly. We provide the facility, either Heinz Field or the school, and we provide for Heinz Field, we provide a tent and water because there's no potable water up there. I bring water up every day and things like that. And for that, we get a percentage, 20% of the tuition.
Okay, thank you.
We were busy with summer adult leagues this year. We had a summer softball league on Monday nights. We had 4 teams, total of about 60 people participating in that. That was great. Monday nights, if you've never been, Monday nights and Thursday nights up at Heinz Field, they're great. A lot of people come up. It's a family atmosphere. People are watching the games. It's great. Everyone should come up and take a look at it. It's fun. Also Tuesdays, we have a beach volleyball league. We have 8 teams, usually sponsored by businesses, local businesses, and they have between 4 and 6 people on each team. That's another great Tuesday night on the beach, hanging out, watching volleyball all day. It starts at 4 and the last game ends at like 8 o'clock. So it's volleyball for 4 hours of volleyball. What we did see a drop down in was interest in basketball. We'd done basketball leagues in the past. This year, we only had about 15 or 20 people who came up sporadically to play. So we did just like like a pickup league. People showed up. I was there. They could play, and hopefully we'll get some more interest in it. And it just seems like interests are diverging in different directions. So basketball wasn't as popular as it's been in the past. We had a fantastic soccer classic this year. We brought over 6 teams from the mainland came over and played 2 Block Island teams in a round robin tournament. So the winner of the tournament had to play 5 shortened games. They were 2 20-minute halves, so 5 40-minute games. So it was a lot of soccer. We had over 100 people up there. We set up a huge tent, have a big barbecue, and it's a great public relations. We get a lot of people out to the island to play soccer. This year, the teams that were in the final decided rather than to play the last game because they were too tired, they decided to just have a shootout and did the shootout, and the team from Newport won. But it was great. It's a good experience. That's another fun thing we do in the summer. Triathlon was on a very busy August weekend. It was hot. We had 353 registrants. We had 302 finishers. Usually you get about 10% or no shows due to injuries or whatever. So we were right around there. I think we'll have people drop out because it was so hot. They didn't finish or just didn't even want to start because it was pretty hot. Ball O'Brien Park is always busy in the summertime. The playground's crazy busy. Tennis courts are being used. We put pickleball lines on the basketball courts. That was a big plus for the community because it was used all the time. The rec department has nets that they lend out for the use of that, and I was getting calls 7 days a week for people to use the nets, and other people were buying their own nets and going and playing in their own. So it was a busy season at Ball O'Brien. And in the past we'd had problems with vandalism there. We really didn't get that this year, which is nice. I think the police increased their patrols, but it was good. No real incidents of vandalism there. Everything seemed to be running well up there. Heinz Field did really well this summer. We have an irrigation system, so it was one of the few green places on Block Island. We did put 160 tons of infield material on the 2 fields. We put 60 tons on the softball and 90 tons on the baseball. And myself and my assistant have been this past couple of weeks kind of finalizing putting that to bed. But there is new material on there because it goes away every year. Every year it blows away and everything. So that'll be good for the spring. But it held up really well. The contract we have with the maintenance company to fertilize and aerate and everything seems to be holding strong. That's what I got to talk about for the summer. If you guys have any questions or anything.
Any questions for Dave?
I have a question about Heinz Field. I mean, not Heinz Field, Ball O'Brien.
Yes.
So the Lions were going to put in fitness stations, right? I believe that company went out of business
Yeah.
over COVID.
Yes.
Like if you could have anything else up there, what would be on your list of
Pickleball courts.
pickleball courts, and where would you put those?
Between the pavilion and the tennis courts, we would need like a 60 by 60 slab of concrete or so to put 2 courts down, 2 dedicated courts with nets and everything like that. We've talked about kind of using the tennis courts as well, but the tennis players, if you don't want to start a pickleball. Trust me.
Right.
But that's on my wish list. Certainly number one I think it would serve the community. Judging from the pickleball that's going on now in the wintertime, I have pickleball on Sundays. I have pickleball Tuesday nights. I have beginner pickleballs now on Sunday. We're getting a great response. So had to have a dedicated court would be like on my wish list. And I've talked to some of the representatives from the Lions Club about possibly using that money more towards purchasing nets for the court if we get it, if and when we get it built or things like that. But we're talking about fundraising, doing a tournament, trying to figure out ways to get that done. That's number one on my wish list for Fall O'Brien.
Okay.
So that'll be in the budget?
We talked about putting it in the capital improvements in 25 or 26. I can't remember. We've talked about it. I don't know where we're at with it.
Just if you can make sure it's in, in the budget as submitted, then let's have that discussion because.
Right. We're putting it
It's
as
a pretty urgent moment right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Given the activity and number of people
Right.
that I think gets people outside. I mean, it's all the right things, so.
And it's such a diverse age group too.
Yeah.
It caters to
Yeah.
every age group. So I think it's an important thing to offer for the community. And I mean, it's blown up for a reason. People do it for a reason. They enjoy it. And
Unbelievable summer. Thank you.
Before we get to Jess, I wish Mike were here, but it's incredible how consistent among the folks who work for the town, you, Dave, Mike, Kate, Kristen, how much effort and what high quality work you guys do. And it is not lost on us. No matter where I go, no matter what time of the day, it feels like, you guys are there for year round, but especially in the summer. So I just, want to say thank you. I'll say it all the time, but this is a great opportunity to do that and say, we're very lucky to have you. Thank you. Jess? We're lucky to have you too, Jess. Most days.
That's okay. I understand.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I love this.
Hello, Jessica Willie, Executive Director of the Block Island Tourism Council. The presentation is on Clerkbase, and some of you have seen it before, most of this before. It's right off of right off of my annual meeting from this year. I did add a slide or two. So that is what you're looking at. I'm not going to go through every page, but I'm more than happy to answer questions. I'll just draw your attention to a few things. The first page is our board. We have a 7-member board. It's appointed by you all. They have 2-year terms. I am the sole employee of the Tourism Council. I answer to my board. We answer as a whole to the state. Tourism Council is not a board and commission of the town like all the people you just heard from. I'm sorry, not a department of the town. We are obviously a board of the town. But you can see on that more about the Tourism Council page. It just is stuff that I'm pretty sure everybody at the table is very familiar with, but I always like to remind people how we got to be where we are. And so we are set up by state statute. Martha's always looking for these first 4 bullet points every time I speak. So these are the 4 things that it is set up under state statute that the Tourism Council is supposed to do. So that it's all in there, 7-member board, how we're funded. I'm not going to go through it all, but again, I encourage anybody who's interested to go onto Clerkbase and read through this. The page that was added from my report is the hotel tax revenue. I do usually for the last 5 or 6 years, maybe even 7 years, I've done an overview for the town, well, actually for the Tourism Council, but have shared it with the town. I try to pull in data from different groups on the island. I go to the power company, I go to sewer, I go to the town, I get all the harbors numbers, I get the recreation numbers, I get most of that from Amy Land. I get the wedding numbers, I get all those things. I put them together in one report and try to do a sort of seasonal review so you all can see. I did reach out for those numbers this year. I didn't hear back from anybody, so I don't have them for you. However, you own those numbers. So if you want the hotel tax numbers that the town gets, and you want the food and beverage numbers that the town gets, and you want the cottage tax rentals that the town gets, you have access to those through your finance department. I just don't have them for you today. The hotel tax revenue, this is the 45% of the 5% of traditional hotel rooms that comes back to the Tourism Council. As a reminder, we don't get any funding from house rentals or from food and beverage. And you can see the fiscal year and where we are to date this year. You can see that the 19-20 year was 285, and then it's just gone up. I will say that was the COVID, a few months of COVID in there. If you look, that's ending June of 2020. So we had that March, April, May, and part of June was that COVID year of that 19-20. But if you looked at 18-19, it was flat. It was also 280. It was like 285, 200. It was literally flat with those 2 years. And then it jumps up, and then it jumps up significantly again with fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022. And then you can see where we are to date. We're up, actually. So this is, we believe, because of a few things. It's because of not necessarily visitation, but more about the number of hotel rooms on the island and the price of those hotel rooms. So if the price of the rooms goes up and more people are staying in them, then that number goes up. So it's a reflection of the price. It's not a reflection of visitation. However, there's probably some visitation in there as well. But during those years, things like for a few years back, a while ago, the surf was closed. It wasn't fully open. And then now it's the Block Island Beach House, and it's fully open with much higher rates than it used to be. Champlain's is another great example where this past summer they were fully open. The year before, they didn't have quite as many rooms. Any little thing like that completely changes the hotel tax revenue. So it's important when you're looking at numbers. I do love my numbers. Thank you. When you're looking at numbers, to remember not to silo any one industry and just look at it and say, well, hotel tax was up, so Block Island was busier. All the next pages are all sort of about our programming, what the Tourism Council does. As I said, we are beholden to the state to do certain programming. And so this is the kind of advertising we do. We have had a pretty drastic shift in messaging over the last few years due to COVID and due to the temperature of the town, I would say. And so a lot of what we do is more, it's brand building, but it's also stewardship. So in other words, we do a lot of that How to Love Block Island, where we're putting that messaging out there. All of our messaging has always been around the beauty and outdoor pursuits of Block Island. So it wasn't that much of a change when you look at some of the stuff we do as far as print advertising. Obviously, media has changed a lot. It continues to change every day. So it's a lot more hashtags and social media and videos and all that. But we've had a lot of success getting great assets. We've taken our foot off the PR gas pedal. So we're not actively going out and asking people to write about Block Island. There was a time when we were doing that. I have to go back pretty far to do that. The state still does that on our behalf. And we work really hard to work with them to make sure that the people that are coming and writing about Block Island are writing about, that fits our what we want to be. If you look at the page called programming, you can see the things that the Tourism Council works on. The Glass Float Project is one of ours, self-guided bike tour, self-guided walking tour, our travel guide, which you have in front of you. That was a big change this year. We took that in-house. There's no longer any advertising in it. There's a lot of QR codes that drive people to our website. It's also not dated. So we only printed a certain number. And then as we need more, we can print more. Also, if you find any errors in there, we can update those and push those out. So that was helpful. I think it came out really beautifully. We worked with Ross Draper on a lot of that photography, but also with a lot of other local photographers. I talked about the How to Love Block Island programming. We have magnets that we put on house rentals. We have these little books that we hand out and pens. Yep. Yep. Yeah, we took that in-house. Yeah. Right, the paper still does a magazine. We worked with the paper before. The paper now does does the magazine. That has nothing to do with the Tourism Council anymore. This is our piece now, our printed guide. And again, we took that in-house. I did all that with our graphic designer. Then we have, of course, we do our e-blast during the summer every week. We do, that's to a cultivated list. It's about 30,000 people. We have a website, social media, public relations. And then we have a couple things that are in the works coming up. There's examples of our advertising in here, what we do, the types of things we do. There's pages from the guide you can see. There's examples from the website, examples from the newsletters, examples of our social media. You know, we heard a lot about the social media this year, and you know, it's a lot of times it's unclear, like who's doing what advertising on Block Island, especially within Rhode Island. It's pretty rare that the Tourism Council would do any Rhode Island based advertising. That's generally not our market. We're not after day trippers as much. Depending, there's Martha, I've heard you talk about this. There's a difference between a day tripper and a visitor. So there might be a visitor somebody in Newport who's in Newport for a week and they come to Block Island for the day. That type of
Can you
thing.
get that one? Bring us the light.
God, is that you? Yes. Of course, Santa. So you can see the examples in this of what our social media looks like. It's, you know, it's dogs on leashes, and we try to be really conscious of town ordinances and all of our social media. It's really important. When we're posting a picture of somebody on a bike, we prefer them to be wearing a helmet, things like that. Our dogs, we want them to be leashed. You know, we try not to show, we're conscious of those things, I should say. Then I'm going to skip over that stuff, the stuff that's in the works. Then you get down to the community support page. There's a page in this program. You heard Mike Shea talk about what we worked with this year with the town. In addition to that, extra person for the town, for the road crew, we also pledged money for a split unit in the dispatch room at the police station so that they could have AC in there. So we worked with the town on that. And then you can see all the other things that we supported, whether it was something like the Summer Symphony or, it was just a sponsorship, or if it was like Blues on the Block. Then other things like the Barbershop Quartet, the Block Island Gardeners, BIMI, the Visitor Center, $15,000, the Glass Float Project, $10,000. We did also buy a Big Belly solar can bundle, which is $11,000. It's a lot of money. Fireworks. So the people who come to us and ask for money, and then we are able to, do community support. So the total was $71,390 for this past year. And we have slightly changed. I'm just going to mention it since I have the microphone, and I know everybody is going to become running now. That we have slightly changed our procedure for funding requests with the Tourism Council. We're trying to get all of our requests in at the same time of year, so we know how much money we have. So we've got a deadline, and I don't quote me on this, but I think it's the end of February to have all those requests in. So any department or anybody in the town who's looking for funding from the Tourism Council, we're going to try to get it in before a certain date. It might be a little late. It might be in March, but we put our budget together in March, looking at the year ahead. So it's helpful to have all that because we're never sure how much money we're going to have. Our funding is decided by the state, could change at any time. So if we don't have that money, we want to make sure we're not pledging money that we don't have. So that's the community support line. And then the page after that talks about the sustainability report. We had, over the last few years, been working with Megan Epler Wood on the sustainability report and having a more sustainable destination and what that means as far as tourism. And there was a big report put together. It's online. It lives on our website, as well as a 45-minute video that explains it. So it's not, just 30 pages of data. And it's a very proactive report as opposed to being reactive, I think, which is something that I would love to see the town work at, is being proactive and getting ahead of some of these problems before they happen. But I think in order to be proactive, you need data. So numbers person. And I think that's all I really have in my presentation. Again, I'm sorry, I don't have more numbers for you that are there, but that's, that's what we do and that's what we've been working towards. And I think things are going pretty well. It's been a rough few years. My position around the state is the same thing. It's been a very vilified, it's happening across the country too. Nobody, not in my backyard and why are you bringing people here and COVID and everything else. But it is part of the law that we have as of right now, that we have a tourism council, and it is part of it that we have to spend money on marketing. So hopefully we're doing it in a responsible way and we're doing what we can for Block Island. So that's where we are.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
Sure.
Really, I hear you speak a number of times a year through various things, and I just think you always do such a terrific and comprehensive job.
Thank you.
It's very helpful, and we talked about the cleanliness piece and the potential for a working group on that. You'd be willing to do that with us.
Yep, absolutely. We've talked a lot about trash cans and pickup in my 15 years.
Right. And the other piece that I think we should talk about is, I think the town has been, to say we're behind on this would sort of presuppose that we're doing anything on it, but we've been very, very much behind in terms of advertising, media, PR, communications about, sort of where the town itself stands on things like that, on kind of, expectations and, the positive things that you can do here. I certainly would like us to get more into that ball game. Not like in a necessarily a marketing arm of town government, but we are right now not really communicating as a town on the platforms that people are using, put it that way. So if you would be willing, I think, there are undoubtedly people on the town council and the town manager who would love to work with you and others on that. So
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to
thank
help.
you.
I mean, I had some conversation, I had a particular conversation with Jess about this last summer. And I was on the tourism council back when the glass float started. And I just thought, oh, fine, this is going to last a year. Who's going to be interested in this? But I find, you must find it extraordinarily frustrating because the tourism council has never put out this message of come to Block Island and be bad, or they haven't, and somehow it's become this, we're not presenting the way we should be. And tourism comes the closest, is most closely aligned with town government. And they've never put out anything that hasn't been the beach and the fishing, which has been a thing out here, even when there was nothing out here, and the nice hotels. And I really find it frustrating, this rebranding, when the only thing anybody's really saying is we don't want to be painted by the same brush as somebody else. And I don't know if they even really know what tourism does and doesn't do.
It is frustrating. But it's I think it's part of the game. I think that you go anywhere and have that issue, but it's true. And that's not to say we're perfect and we haven't made mistakes, and there haven't been magazines that have a picture of people drinking, or there was a picture on the website of a bachelorette party and they had glasses of champagne. And I get angry phone calls about that. And there's, whether you think that's a mistake or not, that's also a matter of opinion. But so we were able to be nimble and change those things. But that's, it's the nature of the game. It is frustrating.
I read something by someone who was giving this whole spiel kind of that I just gave, but it ended up with, I can't wait to go back and have a mudslide. I was like, oh, could you, I don't know.
Can I ask the bike tour that you do with
Mhm.
the QR codes?
Yep.
You must know how many people scan that.
Yep. So we just rebranded it all this year. It went out in like, the new signs went out in August. So we don't have the numbers of the new one. And we didn't, for the last few years, we weren't over promoting it. I would say for the last like 2 or 3 years, we weren't really pushing it, where this summer we started pushing it really hard because it was all redone. It was very old. It was very outdated. And so I do have them. I don't have them with me, but I can look at it. It's the first one, the one that's at the visitor center, was fairly significant, where it was in the neighborhood, I think, of, 500 to 1,000 a year. And then the other ones, depending on where they are, were not as much. In other words, people weren't doing the whole thing. But the other thing is that there are QR codes that take you to a website where the videos live. And so people who go to our website can just click on the bike tour and watch them. So we don't know that people who are watching them actually were here on the island.
Okay.
If you're looking for that kind of data, like how many people actually do, there's no way to tell who's actually out there doing it and who's doing it from their computer. At
Right.
least not without spending money to buy the metrics.
And then you guys put out that report on the invisible cost of tourism,
The
right?
invisible burden, the sustainable. yep,
Invisible
mhm.
burden.
Mhm.
So working with that, what suggestion, I mean, you guys must have had some conversation about, like on your community support, like, how do you think moving forward you could use your financial influence to solve some of those problems? I mean, are you specifically waiting for people to make requests, or do you think you could generate some on your own?
I would say we're more specifically waiting for people to make requests, because it's just an office of one person. I just can't, I don't know what the police department needs and what the road department needs. Obviously, yes, I can drive around and say, wow, that fence looks terrible. We should ask them if they need money to fix that. But I don't want to say it's not that simple, but it's technically not that simple. I mean, we did that this year. We went to the Southeast Light and said, hey, can we help you fix your fence? And they said, yeah, it's going to be $25,000 to replace that metal fence, but it's going to be $5,000 to replace our split rail, or whatever it was, $10,000 to replace our split rail so we can open this summer. So we said, great, we'll do the $10,000 to fix the split rail so you can open, and we'll work next year, put in for the bigger thing, or things like that. But I would say there is no harm in coming, people coming forward and asking for what they think is needed within their, there's a procedure to be followed, has to be followed. It's pretty simple. But the other thing is with the sustainability, the invisible burden of tourism, that is more the recommendations that came out of that are more really town ordinance type things. It's not, in other words, like the tourism council can't go to the water department and say, hey, you need to change your fee structure, whatever it might be that was in there. So the things on the sustainability report were really more about, you need to know how many people are actually visiting Block Island. That's something we don't know, but that's something that the town has to sort of put in place. It's not, the tourism council can't get those numbers because we're not technically the government organization that would request them. So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
We did have a number of meetings, about that, and maybe it's worth Keith at some point to have a short refresher, just for Neil and Molly and Mark, they know it all through the stuff, but getting Molly sort of up to speed on that. Because it's something we should continue to stuff.
The sustainability report, you mean? Yeah.
And many of the sub recommendations.
Yeah.
There was a lot.
There was a lot in there. But as far as community support, I think if people are looking for community support, or there are things that organizations need, then they should ask for it. And, obviously we have had this, the board has this discussion a lot, where whatever's being requested really needs to fit somehow into the purview of tourism. There have been things that have come up that are maybe borderline, but we try to, we do our best to help everybody in what we can. I mean, a budget of around now $400 and something, really, really small. A marketing budget that's $150,000 a year is minuscule. It's dwarfed by other advertising outlets on Block Island. So it's bound.
Would you
But there's
just,
money out there.
would you just touch high level for everyone on the improvement district, because that's gonna be kind of a focus for you for next year, coming year, so.
Yeah, so, most, you guys were all asking, heard a little about the tourism improvement district, it's something that we're trying to move forward with. A number of, areas in the state are doing the same. It is a, assessment that's levied on a certain business type. We're not sure where that's gonna fall yet, but let's say it's gonna be on hotel rooms. It's an assessment, it's a self-assessment that is put on, it's not a tax. That self-assessment, money goes back into a account, separate account, that money is then turned around and used to benefit the people who collect the assessment. It is a law, so it has to be, used a certain way. It's protected, and it is, and that's all those questions that are there right now forming in your head. It's all laid out in a plan that will be presented before anything happens. So we go through the process, answer all the questions, what's it gonna look like, who's gonna collect the money, about how much money you think it's gonna be, how the money's gonna be used. And again, the only, real rule is that money is that's used to benefit those businesses that, self-assess. So just for example, it could be that, it's only on, for example, in Newport, they do hotel rooms, properties that are over 40 rooms. So they have 16 properties in Newport. It's $1 a night per room. That money goes into its own account, and then that money is spent. For example, in Newport, the first thing they did with it was a walking map that obviously showed all of Newport, but it highlighted those properties specifically. Other places have used it for an airport shuttle. So around the convention center, there's a bunch of airports, a bunch of hotels that want to do an airport shuttle, they want to work together, self-assess, and have their shuttle. So it could be used for all sorts of things. And that's coming down the line eventually, getting more information on it. It sits outside of town government and it sits outside of state government, so it's a stable source of funding, which is really important because if you go back to the first page of this presentation, the way the tourism council is funded is that at any time the state legislature can say, you know what, Block Island and Block Island, Blackstone Valley, and South County, you don't need 45% of 5%. The state's going to take over for you guys. You guys have 5%, or you don't have anything. We're just going to have 2 tourism regions in the state. So sorry, and that would be the end of funding on Block Island. That would be the end of it. And so there wouldn't be a tourism division anymore. There'd be no more money for marketing, or for any of the other things. And so this would be a stable source of funding, not only to be used for marketing, but it could be used for marketing. I don't know.
Yeah, perfect.
Any other questions for me?
Thank you, Jess. Thank you, everybody. David.
Things quickly, simply, just want to echo the sentiments expressed a little while ago, but also including Jess, this time, not that she created Borough, but sitting here has been a very rewarding experience for me. I know a lot about what those lines, Town Hall, and the professionalism that the team that's assembled underneath Mary Ann works with, under Mary Ann, and how hard they work and how professional those individuals are and the organizations they run. And this is the first time I've been able to see the folks that are presented today, including Mike, now gone. Each runs a different business, and they each
Yes.
come with varying requirements for how they do their job, but they all put together with such an extraordinary level of professionalism and acumen and knowledge about what it is they do and what it is they do in service to the town. And it's just very satisfying to witness it. And I'm sorry that the room is too full and that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
The second thing I would say is, to build on Martha's comment about the glass globes. I think that they have been one of the biggest successes in bringing the right kind of data.
Mhm.
Just in the last year, I've been approached on the mainland, many venues, groups of people who know me and know Block Island, but they come up to me and they talk about the excitement and enthusiasm, the number of trips that when they come up to Block Island, they pay to look for goals. And these are the kind of green day trippers that we go for. And I was delighted to see when I took to Jess's presentation online that we were funding that. I knew we were funding it, the tourism council was funding that to some level. I had no idea what it was, but I guessed $5,000. Delighted to see today that it's $10,000. So my statement to the tourism council is keep up the good work and keep this program going as long as you can, because it not only encourage the day trippers to come to Block Island for the right reason, get out into the open spaces, but it encourages the families who come for weekends or the like-minded people, similarly minded people who come for longer stays, keep the restaurants and the hotels, to get out there and do those kinds of activities as well. So that's all for you, even more than the tourism council. Keep up that good work.
Yeah, I think there was a point that may be nuanced, and Jess and I are the only ones that understand it. When I was talking about day trippers and visitors, day trippers has gotten such a negative connotation, I think, over time. And I think it's time we started talking about day visitors or day just visitors or something. Because these are the folks that I see who come or staying in Newport or staying in Mystic or staying, somewhere, and are just come out here for the day. But they're not and they're looking at Block Island and they're looking for where are the orbs? If I knew, I wouldn't tell you. But that's exactly, we're saying the same thing. It was just
I heard Mansion
verbiage.
Road is a good place to look. I don't know that for sure.
Word change too, so you're right. There's something that did escape me when I heard you say it. So, thanks for that clarification, and I'll try to improve my lexicon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, David. All right. Any other questions for anybody? Thank you guys so much. Really, really appreciate it. All right. So we got a,
Is that everybody?
yes, Kristen, please.
Sentiment about the work that my peers do for this town and Jess as a peer. And I think Jess said something, and Jess always says something valuable, but I'm always like, why are we still battling this, right? Dave is running all these programs for families. I tried to do slides where it's like families, we do a ton of other things, right? But I tried to show you slides about family things that we're doing and bringing that person here that will enjoy that and attracting that, And so why does this battle still exist? And I think just told the answer. I probably should have asked her years ago. It's about the money, right? That we're battling a very huge other market that gets marketed in a very large dollars in another way. And I didn't understand that before because I've worked with these people for years, and I know what they're doing. I know the boats get pumped out, and I know the camps are busy, and I know Mike keeps the roads clean, and I know what the library does. And I couldn't figure out why we're still battling this. And I guess it's the marketing, and I never knew that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come to the beach, stay for the library. And I got pushback from that from someone, and I'm seasoned enough to take it. And she's a very good friend of mine. And it's not And I pushed back and said, we can't have it both ways. We can't be like trying to create this other visitor, this other identity, this other sense of who we are, and not do those things.
Right.
We have to do that.
Yeah.
And so, libraries spend money on that. And I thought it was like this seems deal, but I guess it's a drop in the bucket.
Good old-
Yeah.
No, you're cut off.
Yeah, sorry. Didn't I already say thank you?
Those other marketers that have a much bigger budget, they're looking for ten customers. So there's entities on Block Island with big marketing budgets that want day trippers. They want people to just come for the day and spend money and maybe just their business or whatever. They're not looking for a long-term client. They're not looking for people who come and just want to hunt for glass plates, and not spend money. So they're looking for something different. And, you know, we hear a lot, and I did mention this in my presentation before, is that Block Island's busy enough, why do advertise at all? So if we pull out of all the markets and don't do any advertising at all, nothing, the only message people are gonna have on Block Island is that other message.
Yes.
So just one quick example is that we don't generally advertise in Rhode Island. So a lot of people on Block Island haven't seen, the only Block Island advertising they've ever seen are Sailaway Block Island Ferry
Yeah.
and the billboard on 95, so the Ultimate Summer Party, and, all those things that are out there that have nothing to do with tourism council, but promote them, but that's all we see. So this August, when there was a lot of bad press on Block Island, there's a lot of, everything in the news was, go to Block Island, you're gonna get stabbed or something. We put out an advertising, flipped it around in like a week. We put an ad on NBC. You only have enough money, it's very expensive to do TV, especially in the election season. We found ads time, we paid the money and we put a commercial up, and I can't tell you the number of people who came up and said, oh, that was a great ad. Yeah, I've never seen, wow, you guys should do more of that. We've been doing it all along, but, so do you spend the money satisfying those people who are on Block Island who are here, maybe don't understand? Or do you spend the money out in those markets where you actually have people coming from there? So it's
I think it's a really, really good question. And it's actually quite fascinating. Sort of how do you, and that's why I want to put a group together to work on it. Because Mhm.
market
Mm-hmm.
just to balance some of the other stuff that's out there. So I think we're changing a little bit, we also have grants coming through from the state that have to be used for paid media.
Mm-hmm.
Has to be used for paid media, can't be used for anything else. So we've got, what that's gonna do, however, that's gonna open up the money that we would have spent on. paid
Sure.
advertising, spend on other,
Mm-hmm.
so there's good things coming up forward. So
Great.
There's lots to talk about right now.
Can you share, not now, maybe share sort of your calendar with the Tourism Council? Because we used to, well, when I was on the council, there was one meeting specifically, which was sort of like, hey, what are the big initiatives? Or where are we going to go hunt as far as programming? I know you do the budget in March, right?
Yeah,
Like
I
if-
see what you're saying.
Like, in other words,
Yeah.
when are sort of the big ideas for the year really solidified? Is that February timing?
Well, we adopt our budget in April.
Right.
So we do a lot of the planning in March.
Okay.
Those are-
So
those are
February,
the
March
big-
are the big
3
meetings.
months of budget.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really big. And I will be sharing, like I said, I want to make sure I have a date right when we're asking for
That'd be great.
those requests to come in. We have not in the past, but we are going to this year.
Internal.
And if-
Are you sure?
No, I think it's, well, you don't want to be asking the tourism director to be going around asking people because that's a political minefield.
Right,
I
right,
mean,
right,
you
right.
just,
No, it's just.
Yes,
That's
you're
not-
right.
that's
You
not
are.
fair.
Will know the process better, because a lot of people don't know what the
Right.
process
Yeah.
is. Now,
One thing that I don't know if you know this, I'm sure you do, but I was shocked this summer, somebody came in the store with their dog and they were asking if it's okay to bring a dog. And I said, of course, no worries. And they said that Block Island had been rated as one of the top 10 destinations dog-friendly destinations in the country. And I had no idea about it. And that was why they were here. Yeah, but they were here because of that article and they.
Well, it's changing.
And, those are the kind of, and they were really good people. So.
Well, dog people are.
Visiting with Keith, visiting with dogs and the microphones are two of
Yeah.
the biggest.
Yeah.
Is the green light on that?
No.
Oh.
Hear all of that?
Would you repeat that?
Sorry to you people listening that couldn't hear that. But anyway,
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you so much. So I'm always delighted when something that I think is going to take an hour takes 2 hours because this was really terrific. But I'm not sure we want to. I'm not sure we have it in us to do another hour or two on priorities and goal setting. So if people are okay with it, I'd like to reschedule that. Does that work? Yes. Yes, that's kind of, yeah, right. I don't want us to be punchy when we're doing it. I want it to be.
Is there a way, so we're sort of pushing subject.
Yeah, sorry. We're on agenda item number 2. Thank you, Kate. I like those boots.
There benefit to sharing ideas with everybody possible, whether it's through them or something like that. Like, hey, here's sort of not my top, but projects.
I think that's a.
amongst each other, just so we can speak all come, thought about it, that this is.
I am really wide open to that, to any ideas on this, because on the one hand, I think it's really important. On the other hand, it can be hard to do without sort of, without it being either too scattered or, so I'm looking for ideas about how to do this well, which is, one of the undoubtedly many values that hopefully Neil will bring is some structured thinking around how you get there. So that may be one of them.
And I also think before we even get to that, we need as a group to have an overview of what is happening, especially for Neil and Molly, who may not be on board with all. I mean, I know Molly really tries to follow things. And the whole flow chart of who's in charge of what. Because it doesn't seem to matter how long we have this charter. This seems so still not be completely
Yeah.
clear on how things work.
Well, then maybe the thing to do is to schedule it after we do that. I don't mean right after, but following that kind of orientation we're going to do on the 14th. When we're both back. And maybe the thing to do, Sven, is that okay, Molly, open meetings wise? If
Are we talking to Millie?
Jesus Christ.
That's Molly.
I
That's
told
Millie,
her
I'm
the other
Martha.
day that this was gonna just, I'm slow on the uptake. on
Keith,
this.
we're getting minutes 2 weeks after the meeting.
I know, believe me. So how does that work?
Yeah, I think that's fine. So
The
you would,
14th.
I would have sent.
you would send them to me. There wouldn't be any back and forth.
No,
Right.
I could, you could send them to me. I think it's important to send them out to the council as well. I mean,
They should go back.
yeah,
I'd love to see it compiled so that, I don't know.
I'm not on the right page. It's been-
whether,
No, it's all bullets. Should
I mean,
be.
it would even be,
There's an activity that we can do, which I was gonna try to pull off, but we'll push it. It's a brainstorming activity that is all your own thoughts. Use stickies. They use it
Right,
a
right.
lot in content marketing.
Yeah.
And then you create a grid that we talk about long-term, short-term, and easy wins. And then whatever that category is, all the different topics. And then to Martha's point, as you look at it, you're able to say, we're already doing that. So then that moves on to an already in process grid. But I think if we just share with Millie ahead of time, you lose some of the creativity thinking of the moment, is my gut. But if we want to do it that way, we can do it that way as well.
But I think before we get there, we've got to review the capital budget. One of the things that happened this past year when the dump road was being paved, I think a few people got questions on why is the dump road being paved? And the answer was, well, because you voted for it a couple of years ago in financial town meeting. And we have a town manager who's who's been here long enough to be able to implement what's going on in the capital plan and taking this thing seriously, which has always been kind of well, we'll put it in the capital plan, then we'll push it off another year. And I think we have to look at the capital plan because there's an awful lot of stuff in there. There's an awful lot of money in there. And the sky is not the limit. That's, we tend to talk about budget as if we can do anything we want, add anything we want. And you can't add stuff unless you take stuff away if you've already got stuff there. So I'd really urge everyone to review, look at or review, my case, review thoroughly the capital budget. So we're not going into, well, we want to do this, but it's already there.
So
See what's there to begin
that's
with.
a really good point.
We don't do that.
So
We've been terrible
let
at
me
it.
let me ask you this, Neil, and other members of the council, just to test your inclination. And Millie, if this doesn't work for the clerk's office, what if we did this on a Saturday morning sometime? For people come in, they're fresh. I know. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay.
You can do it on your own and take,
Yeah.
and take your own minutes.
Yeah, that's great. I specifically mentioned you because I don't want to be presumptuous about your.
There's
Yeah,
there's no.
okay. We can do that. That's okay. It just occurs to me that it doing it at 7:00,
And it's a half-day deal. What Neil described is, and I've been through it many times, it's a really good process. You sort of vet, but it's a half day or multiple hours. I mean, it's not a 1.5 hour.
right.
I'm up for it.
So what are we talking about a time here?
Have we moved
no, we're
away from
just sort
having
of-
this on the 14th?
No,
Okay.
sorry. I mentioned the 14th because the 14th is to do a lot of this, background stuff, what departments are doing, what the plans are. I think Amy's going to be here to talk about some of the finance stuff, but I think actually having for that meeting the capital plan is important so that people know what that looks like and what's that's I view the 14th as a bit of a sort of orientation and then reorientation for everybody. And then I was thinking, after that, so we get everybody up to roughly the same baseline, and then we do this other exercise.
Did we set a date for the 14th?
We did today, yes.
What time?
At noon.
Noon. I couldn't, oh no,
I thought you said you were.
I can.
change
but
it.
Yeah.
It's the other one I haven't changed
Yeah.
yet.
Seems like it might be more expedient if we were all to send Millie our lists.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that we can't do this other activity at a different
Right.
point, but there would be something to start with.
But I think we're talking only about doing the process procedure orientation on the 14th. Is that right?
Right. Yes.
And the blue sky is later.
What are you doing the 14th?
Doug, you need to zoom in.
Oh, on the 14th, and this, the 14th, we're doing just a meeting to get Neil and Molly up to speed on,
And Martha.
and Martha and Keith and Sven, on what the departments are doing with a background around finance, more than frankly, as someone who was newly elected 2 years ago, than you usually get when you're elected. So no debate or issues, just let's try to get everybody educated on stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. David?
I'd just like to issue my own caution and one concern on this matter. Just as a mental exercise, just listen, go back up to all the goals and priorities you set last January and see how many you've accomplished, how many even got started. The thing that concerns me going forward, because I've sat in to a lot of these sessions since I've been retired and listening to counselors talk about goals and priorities. It's the parallel, a lot of the things you talk about become the parallel of the capital budget or budgeting discussions. And if you're not spending money, you're spending staff time. So every goal and priority that you add to your list to get accomplished during your term of 2 years is going to use at least one of those resources, both of which are on the verge of being maxed out right now. So you really need to think about carefully before you put something down as a goal and a priority to make sure, in fact, you have the resources to cover it. And maybe some of the things that you've already put on this list from previous years just need to be validated because you set them as priorities and they've never been done. Right. But just to mention a couple that I know have been talked about by people other than me is generating more revenue so we can do more, which is not necessarily a budget item other than in town staff work, because that's where it all falls, to get those balls moving. So anyway, that's my concern going forward. Thank you.
Was it something that we said that gave you that concern? Because that's entirely consistent with what I'm thinking too.
Yeah, I think
So
what we all.
No, you just, only the general tone and the general conversation that you just opened with set me to thinking backwards. And so
Gotcha. Yeah. And I wasn't giving, I mean, I want to be able to speak about this stuff as clearly as I can. So if I was not speaking clearly about it, because I've sat through 2 of them now, and a lot of the stuff that we talked about is happening. Some of it isn't. And then there are other things that are only, everything has to do with the budget at the end of the day, right? I mean, but if, for example, you were concerned about the tone in the summertime, what are the things that, as Neil just said, like, what are the are there any easy solutions to that that are consensus things that you could do that maybe might not even cost money, or that it's just we tend to run if there's a frustration that I have, or it's not a frustration, it's the nature of government, is we seem to have an emergency that consumes a lot of bandwidth, to use the current term. And when that bandwidth gets consumed, things that we've been planning on doing get pushed out. So I'm just trying to keep in the forefront, I think we all are, sort of those longer term goals and priorities for the community, so that they don't get subsumed by something every 6 months and we're not maintaining focus on those things that the community decides are a priority.
You make a good point. The town in total has made great progress on changing the tone with regard to liquor licenses. And it's cost an enormous amount of time, if nothing else, which diverts everyone's intellectual energy away from other mandatory must-dos.
Right.
And it's the nature of all of us, myself included.
Yeah.
I do the easy things because I can finish them. And
Yeah.
the things that I should have been working on 5 years ago, I never get finished. I never even get them started, never mind finish.
Right.
And we're all guilty of that.
Yeah.
and I think that's, communities can fall into that trap too.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, David. I think one of our problems, and we saw it very much last summer, and I find extraordinarily frustrating, is the bright and shiny, which is basically what we're talking about here. The bright and shiny problem, the bright and shiny,
Yes.
and that's where we were jumping from one thing to another thing to another thing. And there were three things last summer. I can't remember the third one. It was that important, but took up a whole lot of time. And we all say we don't want to be we don't want to be reactive, but as soon as you get a group of people with the pitchforks, it's like, well, we have to appease them. I'm not an appeaser. As you know. I just tell you, that's nonsense. Go away.
But
But-
I do think though, and this is sort of to everybody's comment, that's why we have to plan. And to be honest with you, after 5 years on the council, I don't know that we've really done a great job every year. No, I'm just saying, putting a
It's not-
plan together.
This is our opportunity because we're not in COVID anymore. We're not in between managers.
Right.
We've got a new council. We've got
and
a
we hold
chance.
ourselves
We've got
accountable.
different, a clerk's office. We've got
Yeah.
things have changed.
Totally.
Yes.
So I think this is the time when we can say, okay, yes, we're gonna have the fire drills. Yes, we have to be reactive. Yes, we have to do that. But we're still saving 30% of our energy for these things so they continue on versus getting derailed. So I'm excited about it. I think David's cautions is right on.
Mhm.
And incremental revenue is number one on my list.
So Millie, is there an easy way to pull the priority list that was created by the last council? Is there like was a document created on what part? No.
We had a number of things where someone would say, this council's priority. And I always wanted to say, actually, that's your priority.
Exactly.
That did happen.
It happened.
So I don't mind meeting Saturday and I'll take minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that as well.
Great. So we will figure out a date for that. Molly, does that all sound good to you?
So we're not doing it on the 14th,
We are
Mhm.
doing the
Yeah.
meeting on the 14th, which is
Mhm.
sort of the.
but we're not adding this onto the
the
14th.
education orientation, whatever.
Okay.
And then after that, we're going to schedule this exercise on Saturday morning.
Okay, I work on Saturdays.
Okay,
Um,
Sunday morning, you know, whatever. You know,
okay,
on-
but
on-
I'll work around
On a
it. I'll figure
date
it out.
where we all have, yeah, you know, yeah,
I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
That's fine.
terrific. Doug,
Just a last comment, I'd actually come for part two, not part one.
yes,
When you're having this, you're deciding what your goals are, what you want the government to do, what you want the island to do, what you want it to be, right? You want to educate the people that live here, right? You want them to participate in your discussion, right? Then you want to have it when the public can come to your meeting and listen and participate. Not Saturday morning, not Sunday afternoon, sometime not during a working hour when somebody can come without giving up a day's work and participate with you. The more people you have, I've learned many times, the more people in a room, the better off you are, the better decisions you make.
that's
And you
really,
never know who's sitting in a hallway that has the best idea of all. They're
Yep.
just not here right now or they're working.
that's really good advice.
So I would just
Yep,
give you that.
good advice.
So, good luck and thank you all
Yeah,
for serving.
Thank you, Doug. Motion to adjourn? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. We're adjourned.
some programs.
See, I was